What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am, of course, your host, Reckless Rex Ruger, your bastard of ceremonies, a.k.a. the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Son of Glam, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. Look at that same smoldering look. Joined, of course, by the Freddie Mercury puppet. The teeth are out in full effect, excited. And why shouldn't we be? And why shouldn't you be? Take your eyes and feast them on the Son of Glam, the front man for the band, adored by a million fans. I'm the peanut butter to your jam. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wop, bop, loo, bop, wop, bam, bam, shazam, hot damn. Whew. Feeling good, and more importantly, even after all that, folks, I am looking good. And in the words of the great Fernando Lamas, it is better to look good than to feel good. Or at least from what I remember, Billy Crystal doing the impression of Lorenzo Lamas on Saturday Night Live. And our guest is here, so shut up, Rex, and let him in. We got another kick-ass episode. We're going to get down to it and chop it up with him right now. Can't wait. Let's do it. And we will get him in here. Un momento. Todd!
Hello. How are you, mate?
Are you able to hear me and see me all right?
I can hear and see you all right.
Crikey! I've been waiting all day to say that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I've been waiting all day to say it.
Great. Well, you've said it. You can say it as many times as you like.
Is that it? So that's a nickname, correct?
Well, yeah, actually, it's because I used to say crikey all the time. And a mate of mine in America, Ian, who runs Sick Drummer magazine, just started calling me crikey.
It works, though, man. And it especially goes good with your being Australian, right? Because that's kind of Australian vernacular, right?
Yeah. Well, Steve Irwin used to say it, and that's sort of where it got popular, I guess. So then I don't know. It's sort of like instead of saying "oh shit" or "oh fuck," it's like "oh crikey."
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Keeps it clean around the kids.
Yeah. That's it. That's
you know,
it.
You got a good... So. If I can go back to the beginning and chop it up with you about your earliest memory of music, man, was there a specific artist or an album or a song that really got the spark in you to do music as a career?
Look, my earliest memory, I started playing the piano when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and purely because my older brother was doing it, I'm pretty sure, and I just always wanted to do everything he did. So, and then my younger brother played piano as well. I've actually got our childhood piano because my dad was going to get rid of it when he sold the family home, and I said, "Oh, I'll take it."
So you can play it pretty well.
I was a lot better when I was younger because I really focused on drums as I got older. But I play a little bit. I've actually just been getting in the last month I've been getting right back into the piano. I've been doing my scales.
Nice.
I've been learning the Cheers theme, actually. That's what I was like, I want to
play
the Cheers theme song.
That's iconic.
Yeah. So
I just recently, about a year ago, man, I remember I was going to work every single night. I was doing a lot of overnight shifts at the time. I work in healthcare, man. So and I remember I was occupying a lot of my time by going back and watching old episodes of Cheers, and I ended up getting through all the seasons. And you know, I was in my teens when it was on in the 80s, man. But when I went back and watched it, I realized just how fucking great it was.
Yeah. I don't remember what movie. There's some movie where they all sit around the piano and someone just starts playing. It's a comedy movie. It's one of those like
Woody Allen or something.
Will Ferrell or so, you know, the sort of later comedy. And they're all sitting around the piano and someone just starts playing the Cheers theme. And when I first saw that, I thought, damn, I've got to learn that. And this was years ago. And so I've really only started getting back into piano this year.
But it's probably tough to come to the King Parrot guys with a piano piece, right?
Who knows? I mean, I've never done it, but I wouldn't rule it out. Like we might put a little piano piece on something. Not on our next album because that's all done now. But hey, who knows? Maybe I'll put a little piano piece at the start of a extreme grind song.
Oh, that would be awesome, man. That would be absolutely incredible, man. Groundbreaking. I don't think that's been done. I mean, yeah, for sure. I had Matt on here like a week or two ago, and I think he did. I think he did allude to new music, man. But like, is there something that's happened in the last couple of weeks where you guys have more of a definitive date on like when a new King Parrot album's coming?
We haven't got a release date. We have recorded everything. So the music's written, the album's recorded. It's still getting mixed. We didn't want to rush this one because the last one felt pretty rushed. And as you can tell, we haven't released an album since 2017, and we haven't released new music since 2020 when we did that Hold Up in the Lair EP.
Yeah.
So this time around, we just took a slightly different approach, and it was really about just getting it done and everyone sort of being happy with it and just doing it properly. There was no rush. Like I felt the last album, I thought Dead Set, that was the first album I did with King Parrot.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago. We were writing that up in Vermont 10 years ago
crazy.
To this day.
I know.
And that was released in 2015. That was great because we were all in America at the time. We had nowhere else to be and nothing else to do but finish writing that album. We had a few songs and some ideas, but we got in a barn together in Vermont and we jammed every day of the week, 7 days a week, wrote songs, and I reckon that was a great album. We recorded that with Phil at Housecore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the album after that was kind of we had a lot of good sessions, but in the end it was a little bit rushed. I felt like some of the songs that were there for a bit longer were really good, and then some of the later ones were a bit rushed. And then there was some changes made. Sort of we got together and we had a pre-production week, and then when we actually got in the studio, the producer and the guys because they all live in a different state from me. I live in Queensland. They all live in Victoria.
That's far.
I'm in Brisbane, there in Melbourne. Yeah, it's a 2-hour flight, 24-hour drive.
Oof.
Yeah, but we'd sort of done a bit of a pre-production thing up here in Brisbane. Then, I went down there to record, and they'd sort of made a few adjustments. So it was kind of like on the fly, relearning a few bits and pieces before I went in and tracked. And it was only a few songs because most of them stayed. Like some of the ones that we'd been working on and playing for a while were concrete, but there was a few little adjustments, and it threw me a bit. So this time I really wanted to just establish everything, have everything established, and sign off. That's good. We're all happy with that, and roll with that before we recorded. And we also, this time, I played to a click track as well, which we haven't done before. We've always done it pretty natural, which is fine for me. Like the drums go first, so everyone's kind of got to play to what I lay down. But then, if anything might have come out a bit quick or a bit slow or a bit whatever,
right.
At least this time we had it all mapped out, all done, practice to it. And then we go, okay, that's it. That's good. This needs to be a bit quicker. This needs to be a bit slower or whatever. So then I played it to a click, and then everyone just played to my drums. And to me, it's probably a lot tighter and better. It's a bit more pre-production, so that when we went in the studio, like I nailed all my drum tracks. I reckon the first take was probably not the greatest, but I did 6 takes of everything, and from the second to the 6th, they were all good. So
undeniably, it's a collaborative effort when you guys get together, right? Is anybody bringing in the lion's share of the ideas, or does everybody kind of contribute to the creation of these songs?
Yeah, everyone contributes. Like we'll all come in with song ideas. I came in. There's one song I've had one song on every album that I've sort of written all the music for, guitars, everything. Not that I don't do any of the lyrics or vocals, but we all just sort of help each other with the parts. Ari often is pretty good with sort of structures, and like he can take stuff and go, oh, what if we try this or that, and having that extra time this time around, we could present something and then leave it so everyone could sort of have a listen and get used to it and go, oh, what if we try this or try that? And it was more about this time, rather than trying to rush through it, it was more about trying everything and then eliminating what didn't work, keeping
Right.
what did work. So yeah, I think we've come up with a pretty good result. In saying that, I haven't heard it as much as the others, because obviously I live in a different state and I'm not going in the studio for the mixing process or anything.
Right.
But from the bits I have heard, and I actually should hear something soon, I'm thinking, because they're getting close with the mix. But yeah, from what I know that my parts, I'm really happy with how I performed those. And I'm pretty sure that from what I have heard, it's sounding pretty cool. So
It's going to crush us. Yeah.
I hope so. It's probably a little different than past ones. There's definitely quite a bit of groove, and there's some crazy fast bits, but there's some sort of slower bits, and yeah. So I don't know. It might be different, might be the same. We'll see. But ultimately, I've always had the opinion that I play music for myself, and obviously we all play for ourselves, and I'm not sort of too worried about what. I'm not writing songs for anyone but me. And obviously when I'm collaborating, I want everyone to enjoy it. So writing songs for us, and then it's just awesome that other people like what we do and support that. So
now,
yeah,
now obviously your strength, unlike Samson in the Bible, did not lie in your hair, man. You famously took off your dreadlocks. It was on your website or whatever, and you've maintained a close shaven haircut.
Well, yeah, I cut them off on the 17th of August.
Yep.
So just over a month ago. And then last Sunday I had another haircut. So I've had 2 haircuts in the last month, and before that I hadn't had one in 25 years. So.
And what are the big glaring differences that you're finding between like having those dreads and now being having the hairdo that you have now?
Well, my girlfriend and I went for a holiday about a week after I did the cut, which was a big catalyst for doing it when I did it. And it was a tropical beach holiday, and I wanted to swim, and I would swim with dreadlocks, but they stay wet for, like, we did a holiday a year ago and I had the dreads and we were swimming every day, and my hair was just wet for the whole holiday.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, this time it was just a jump in the pool and then a quick flick of the towel and the hair's dry. It was beautiful.
So you don't really miss them then?
No, look, I think I was ready for probably the last 4, 5, 6 years. I've been tossing up whether to cut them off, but it was just that whole identity crisis, Now, because everyone knows me as the guy with dreads, and then I'm like,
you do start to become known by that. It becomes a calling card. I've got some friends with some pretty impressive ones too, and that's what you start to like. If you're trying to describe them, it's the first thing you defer to, definitely.
Yeah. So aside from that, I really assimilated quite quickly to not having it, because this is how I used to have my hair.
Yeah.
And then I grew it out in high school. I had an undercut because that was cool in the 90s, and then I shaved it all off again, and then I wanted dreadlocks because I got pretty naturally curly, wavy hair, and I just didn't really like it when I grew it out that time because it was too curly. I thought, dreads, I could have dreadlocks and it'll grow. And so yeah, grew it out in 1999 when I was 17. So I started growing my hair and didn't have a haircut until I was 42.
Now, so as you said, man, band starts in 2010. You joined in 2014. So yeah, you are in there now for 10 years. Did those guys know you prior to? Like, what was the impetus for you joining King Parrot?
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing. I mean, I guess the metal scene worldwide is a one big family. So the metal scene in Australia is even tighter knit, I suppose. I did know a couple of the guys, and the original guitarist of the band was a guy named Ed Lacey, and I actually played with him in the Berserker. So that was another Melbourne band I used to play drums for.
Yep.
I was just a live member of that band. I didn't contribute any creative stuff, whereas Eddie did. But I actually knew Youngie probably more than anyone because he used to book a venue down in Victoria as well, and he booked one of my bands one time, and Eddie introduced me to him, and so I'd sort of knew him. And then it was just that 6 degrees of separation. I'd met Ari because Ari's previous band before King Parrot was a different band with Ed. So it was kind of, I played in a band with a guy that was in King Parrot who was no longer in King Parrot, but I was friends with them whenever they came up to Brisbane, one of my bands would always support them, or I'd lend them gear, like lend them a drum kit, borrow amps or whatever, just so they wouldn't have to travel so much with so much gear. Just a friend, like a friend of the road, I suppose. And then
hey, we all need them once in a while.
yeah. And then when Skitsy, the drummer before me, decided he didn't want to do it anymore, they just asked me if I wanted to do it, and I sort of considered it and went, yeah, all right. And then it was sort of like, oh well, we reckon you can do it. We're just going to book it. Youngie's like, it's like, oh, we'll fly you down. We'll do an audition. And then he just kind of rang me and said, we all think you can do it, so we're just going to book a tour. So you're in.
It's baptism by fire, essentially.
Yeah, well, it's
get them right in there and get them started.
Yeah, funnily enough, a lot of bands I'd played in previous to King Parrot I've done like everything from, circus metal, sort of Mr. Bungle meets Slipknot was my first band. That was that kind of style. And then I've played in like thrash bands, death metal bands, tech death, this and that.
Oh, so they knew you were capable.
Yeah. But the King Parrot, as far as the style, it's like thrash grind, and that's what I love. That's what I love
about it too. Yeah, that's what I love about it is the first word that came out of your mouth. The thrash element to it is what really excites me the most, because I love old school thrash.
Yeah, I'm actually playing another thrash band called Fuck, or FUC.
Just FUC, so the fans get it right. FUC.
Yeah, we wanted to call the band Fuck, and so instead of making it too rude, we took the K off and put dots between the letters, and so it stands for Forests Under Construction. But it's actually
But was the band name Fuck fucking taken by anybody? You got to think that it has been, right?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. There's plenty of bands called, there's a band from Canada called like Fuck the Facts. I think there's a band from Australia called the Fuck Fucks or something.
Wow, that's extreme. That's extreme.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what sort of style they play. There's some sort of metal. But yeah, Fuck is just a bit of a funny band. My best mate and I do it. It's just a two-piece. We play in mankinis, and we now have a giant inflatable penis suit that jumps around on stage.
Oh, you're having fun with it. I love hearing that. I like hearing that you're having fun with it, dude. Yeah, you're spoofing on yourself, because I kind of do that with I kind of do that with the Being Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. You gotta be able to have some fun and spoof yourself a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
I wish this was. Hey, listen, I wish this was my real hair.
It's not your real hair.
I really do wish, though, man. Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
Well, for the sake of trying to win in court and prove that I'm David Lee Roth Jr., yeah, Todd, we'll say it's my real hair, and we'll go with that, okay? Wink, wink.
It looks real.
And now, so you've been doing this for like a while, though, as I said, like 10 years or whatever. Do you still like touring? Obviously, I know I'm 51 years old. As I get older, I like my creature comforts more. I don't want to leave fucking home sometimes. I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
You still love touring and getting out on the road?
Look, 10 years ago, I would have happily lived in a van. Now, I like the balance. I'm all about balance. I love touring, but I'm good for about a month, I reckon. And then I like to come home. Because I have certain things I need to do to keep my body in prime condition. I've had a back problem at one point, which I've fixed. But we did that US-Canada run last year, which was 6 weeks, and I was great for the first month. Week 5, it was like, I really need to get home and get my exercise on again. And week 6 was, a little bit.
For people that are watching that don't know, maybe people that aren't as familiar with metal, I don't know why those people would be watching, but it is a physical thing what you do, though, man. Extreme metal drumming. It's not just you there, you're tapping away at a drum. It's pretty physical.
It's very physical, and I've actually changed the way I play very much. Like, really changed my center of gravity, changed the way I set up, so I'm not twisting as much. It's helped, but yeah, definitely. As far as being on the road, I love it. And in Australia, we just do a lot of weekenders, or we might go out for a week or two, which is fine. Obviously, if we're going overseas, it's a long way from Australia, so you want to get at least a 3-4 weeks in. But I think for me nowadays, like 10 years ago, I was quite happy to live in a van, and I joined the band. We did an Aussie run, and then we went to America for 3 months, and then we were just going over there constantly. But now, I like the routine of my day job. I like the fact that my partner and I own a house and we're paying that off. So I kind of need to be home to work, because heavy metal doesn't quite pay the bills.
Well, shout out to Phil Anselmo, though, man. He's really triumphed you guys, man, and been a staunch supporter of you guys, man. So shout out to Phil, man, for having his ear to the pavement and being able to go worldwide and find, cool music. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are on the other side of the world from us, and yet, you fell on the radar of Phil Anselmo, which has probably been a good thing for you guys.
Well, it's been great. Philip and Kate are just so generous, and so I don't have enough good words to say about them and the whole housecore team with everything they've done for us. I mean, even if you look at it, there's a Brisbane band where I'm from called Portal that Phil loves as well. And
yes, I would love to get them on here, but apparently there's no way to really find out who they are. They're pretty serious about keeping the identity hidden. So if you're one of the members of Portal secretly, Todd, fess up right now.
I'm not one of the members, but I do know some of. I do know some.
But I respect the fact that they're in their gimmick that much, though, man, that it is really hard. You just can't go on the internet, and believe me, I've tried, and just fucking type up and find out individually who these guys are, even if you try to do a somewhat deep search. Now, I'm sure that I could have went even deeper, but I'm not that tech savvy or whatever, man. But, kudos to them, man, for like having that image and saying we're going to keep as much of a mystique as we can.
Yeah. Well, they've kept it up. I'm not sure how long Portal's been a band for. It's got to be pushing 20 years. And they have kept that up. I mean, obviously, people in the local Brisbane scene know the guys because it's all the metal scene, and everyone sort of knows each other. And I know some of their previous bands and some bands that they currently are in without the gimmick. But they've definitely kept that secret. And
so the only way that I'm going to get an interview with them is because real identities now. I've got to say on air that I'm going to come to Australia and have to kidnap you, and you're going to have to cough up some names. That's what I get these guys on. They do a great job. I'll tell you, they do a great job of keeping it from us, man, the general public. So
well, it's one of those things. I mean, even like when Slipknot first came out, they were really staunch about keeping their identities secret. I mean, I met some of the Slipknot guys on one of their I think it was their second Australian tour, and even then, like, you get photos with them, and like they cover their faces and stuff. And
they're living the gimmick.
So, not so much now. Everyone sort of knows who they are and what they look like. And I actually remember, because I was such a big Slipknot fan when they first came out, and there was a website. This is when I still had like dial-up internet,
Oh, I remember it well.
There's a website called Slipknot Unmasked, and I felt almost dirty and ashamed trying to see what their faces looked like, and they were all terrible photos. But
I almost think it was better, man. Like pre-internet days. I was just talking about that, like with like a guest like before, and I remember like in the '80s, man, with like pre-internet, man, like you would hear these death metal cassette tapes. And you think, wow, this music is terrifying. And then you never really got to know much about the guys making it, man. So hence they seemed kind of terrifying too,
Well, and that was it. There was definitely a mystique about it. Whereas now everyone's so accessible, and like obviously, the actual product of music is so devalued because you can just download an app for $10 a month and have unlimited access to every kind of music ever.
I know.
So like basically, I mean, it is what it is. It's in a way it's good because some people who may never have been discovered are discovered. It's probably been good for Australian bands because, like you say, people like Phil Anselmo have access to hear us and creates better opportunities for us to get overseas and get to play, because ultimately you want to play live. I mean, most people do.
So shout out some other. So are there other great Australian music bands over there, like right now, that you could recommend to people, or just so I can shout their name out, man, and get their name out there, man? Are there some just specifically Australian bands?
Well, a band that I got right into a couple of years ago, they put an album out during COVID. It's a 3-piece from sort of Western Sydney called 12 Gauge Rampage.
Okay, that sounds
And
cool.
yeah, it's like vocals, bass, and drums. But the bass player was playing all sorts of chords and stuff. It was really fun. The drummer's amazing. He's a good mate of mine now. And
No guitar? The vocalist wasn't playing a guitar?
no, no. So the
Wow.
bass player did it all. Like he basically played guitar chords on his bass or guitar on his bass. And so it had the bottom end, but also the higher end. And
Obviously, we mentioned Portal. Goes without saying, man. For people that don't know Portal, man, a wall of fucking sheer noise and terror, man. You know, heavy.
Yeah, yeah. And then we got a couple of mates bands. Obviously, my band, Fuck. Check them out. FUC. Yep. We're a bit of a thrashy, punky kind of fun band.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of mates. Like, we got a tour coming up in Australia soon with a band called Astro Death. They're kind of like for lack of a better word, kind of along that stoner line, stoner metal.
Oh, I like that. I like that. What's their name? Are they a pretty new band?
They've been around for a few years. Yeah, they're a two-piece as well, actually.
Wow.
So they're on the tour with us, as well as another band called Chuff, who are sort of a grindy power violence type band. They're on that tour with us as well, with us and Weed Eater.
Power violence. Boy, those words sound nice together.
Yeah. I think it's I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's like what it's referring to. But it's a certain vocal style, I guess.
I'm going to shout out one of my Australian favorites, man, who I've had the pleasure of talking to on here, man. Thrash band from Australia, Harlot. I really love Harlot.
Oh yeah, I know those guys. Yeah. They're
great band.
They do bits and pieces still. They're not so active anymore. I think the main guy sort of. He just does it as he goes, you know.
Yeah, he's the one I've had on, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah. Gee, who else? I mean, Black Reno's a great band.
Who's the greatest band from Australia ever, though? Like, would you have to give it to AC/DC? Is that who wins ultimately?
I don't know. I really like a band called Cold Chisel.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of Cold Chisel?
Yeah, I've heard of Cold Chisel, but I think obviously it's tough just because of the commercial success AC/DC has had. But I don't necessarily know that they're the best band from Australia. They're probably the most popular.
Probably the most popular, probably the most widely known. I guess Parkway Drive is sort of catching up. They're actually currently doing a tour in Australia where they're playing massive like arenas now. They're not quite doing stadiums, but.
Although I will say full disclosure right here on this show, man, that irregardless of genres or whatever, man, I was a huge INXS fan.
Oh yeah, they're massive too. I guess Midnight Oil was another big one.
Midnight Oil,
broke internationally, and then you got bands like Airborne, which is kind of similar to AC/DC, who have a big following in Europe. Rose Tattoo are pretty popular in Europe.
Rose Tattoo are legendary. They are.
Yeah, but INXS was huge.
I know they were kind of, I guess the States would have looked at them as a pop band, man, but some of that early stuff they were doing was really on the borderline of like early alternative music, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
they got their own sound, haven't they?
Yeah. Saxophonist.
Yeah. Right. You can kind of tell when an INXS song comes on that it's INXS. So that's they've got their own sound.
So for you, man, you're Mount Rushmore, which if you're not familiar, you've been to the States, you know Mount Rushmore. 4 presidents' faces on there, man. I did learn, thanks to Off the Couch Boxing, my other podcast, that it is located in South Dakota, which I guess makes me a shitty American that I didn't know where Mount Rushmore was. But
I didn't either until you said that.
My geography, I guess, was not up to snuff. But for you, man, as a music fan, this is just subjective, Todd. It's just your bands, man. Who are your 4 all-time greatest artists?
Oh, 4 all-time. It's tough. I'm going to have to say Slipknot.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for Slipknot, I probably wouldn't have really focused on drums. Because I heard I was playing guitar. I can play guitar, but I'm not like a shredder. I could play.
Yeah.
I was always pretty good with the drums, but I'd sort of put the drums away to learn guitar. But then I heard Slipknot and went, shit, I gotta play drums. Because I could never find a drummer.
Game changer. Slipknot's a game changer.
Yeah, being a drummer for so many years now, I know that lots of people still can't find drummers. I was in 12 bands at one point because people couldn't find drummers. But yeah, so Slipknot.
Went one. Yep.
I got to say Slayer.
Okay.
Because I just absolutely love Slayer. And then it's so tough. I'd have to say Nirvana because that was a really big influence on me as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to put Rancid in there.
Rancid, got your one punk band in there,
the punk band, yeah. Like I was a punk kid, so when I was growing up, I was punk and grunge, you know, and sort of evolved into metal because I guess you start listening to heavy stuff and distorted guitars, and for me, it evolved, and I wanted heavier and heavier and heavier until I got to the point of like extreme death metal.
Yeah, I got to that point too, man. I remember I was just telling somebody, man, that like me and my friends were always like 14, 15 years old. We just remember like, what can we find that's heavier than this? Then you'd see a video on Headbangers Ball, you know, on MTV, 2 o'clock in the morning. Holy shit, that band is fucking heavy. Go on, get that. And we were just always exploring. And then, yeah, then it does get kind of laughable because then you start getting into all this fast, heavy, satanic shit. You know what I mean? And it's just like, how far down the rabbit hole am I going to fucking go here, man? You know what I mean? Like suddenly it's not as enjoyable. No offense to bands that play that heavy, man. But and I love listening to it 90% of the time. But sometimes you just need to relax and have some nice melody, you know?
Yeah, well, I think I reckon, or let's say around 2011, 2012, I was at my most, I reached the pinnacle of extremities where I was listening to basically extreme tech death metal. That's all I listened to. Right. And then I sort of got to that point, and now I've come back where I don't really listen to a lot of that anymore. I like it still. I think the musicality is amazing, but I guess as well as, you know, as technology evolved and recording sounded way more processed than human. So it's still great to see that stuff live because you see the people doing it. But when you hear it, it's like, well, it's really polished and clean, and it doesn't have that sort of human element. So then I've sort of gone backwards. And to be honest, if I want to listen to music, I'll probably chuck on one of the many amazing Slayer albums. They're probably the main band I listen to now, which is kind of funny. Or I listen to my issue too.
That's my issue too. If I'm getting some free time in the course of my day, the podcast has helped me get a little bit better at it, man, exploring some new music and having some younger musicians on just because I know it's a tough business. So they have a platform where somebody finds out who the fuck they are. You know what I mean? It's always great to talk to legends on here too, but there is a nice jolt that it gives me having like young up and coming bands on. But what a tough fucking gig nowadays. Nowadays, man, people always used to say that they did music because they love it. Nowadays, you really are doing it because you love it, because it's hard to be very profitable in it.
Yeah, well, like I've never done it for money personally. Yeah. I appreciate that with King Parrot, we've got enough of a following now, and we do sell enough tickets to our shows where we don't have to pay to do it.
Right.
But up until King Parrot, every band I was in, I was basically paying to do it. So yeah. And it was like I could have gone down the road of playing in cover bands to make money playing music, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I have done covers, but I don't like it, and it was just one-off gigs. Like a couple of mates wanted to do a cover band for a dude's birthday party, so I was like, yeah, all right. And a few metalheads, friends of mine, actually many years ago, it's like, oh, we'll just throw a covers band together so that we can maybe play on cruise ships and this and that. And we had a few jams. But it never went anywhere because we're all so committed to our originals, you know. So
gotta be careful, man. Well, you don't want to be like those guys on the Titanic playing their instruments out there, man. Being the fucking like the band on the ship.
I'll play till we sink. I'll absolutely play. I'll play the drums until the water consumes me and I freeze.
That's the rock and roll spirit right there.
That'd be a good way to go out, wouldn't it? Yeah. Doing what you love. Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception that you think that you see people over here in the States have about Australia, or maybe a stereotype? You know what I mean? Like we don't sometimes always, I think when I had Matt on here, I might have poked him and probed him about maybe kangaroos a little bit out of curiosity. And maybe a little bit I poked him about the fascination over there with Vegemite. And I think that might've been it, man. But what's the biggest misconception that we have?
Biggest misconception, I think, and don't get me wrong, I like to play it up a bit as well because, we have a pretty good sense of humor as Aussies. But biggest misconception is people think that everything in Australia is trying to kill you. We have all these venomous spiders and snakes and this and that, but really, yeah, there's snakes around my place, but you don't see them. They kind of leave you alone.
I'm going to give you credit for being kind of consistent with Matt said too, man, because like I think I might have honed in on like do people mistake when they see kangaroos as them being docile and friendly? And he said they can be a little fucking chippy at times. I mean, you probably don't want to walk up on them, but for all intents and purposes, pretty harmless.
Pretty harmless, but you got the big reds. I'm sure you've probably seen photos, and they're not doctored. Like they actually have like big muscles and they stand 6 foot tall, and kangaroos actually will stand on their tail and kick, and they've got these claws on their feet, and they can rip your guts out. But ultimately, it's like anything. Like you leave them alone, they leave you alone. I mean, there's plenty of places where you can go and pat them, and there's several different breeds of kangaroos too. And then you got your wallabies and your paddy melons, and they're all kind of in the kangaroo type family they just sort of get smaller as they go. But for the most part, if you disturb a kangaroo, it's going to hop away rather than try and attack you.
And what about your memories in growing up and being subjected to Vegemite? Matt was a little vague on describing Vegemite, you know what I mean? Like to the average American who's not very familiar with it. I think you might describe it a little more accurate and a little more flowery and definitely like a little bit more with a little more substance, man. So like, what is it really? Because Matt had me, and I've asked other people too. I think I might have even asked Andrew from Harlot when he was on here, what the fascination is with it.
I guess it's just what we've grown up with, It's like you guys eating your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, I don't know if I'd eat that, but I love Vegemite. Vegemite is basically, it's a yeast extract. It's basically the sediment left, like for lack of a better description, it's kind of the sediment left after brewing beer, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's like a molasses almost, but it's full of B vitamins and yeah, it's just delicious.
What would you compare the taste to of it? If you had to say, like, to break it down for somebody like from the States, you would say, if I had to say something close, Vegemite tastes similar to, or is it indescribable?
It's the only thing is close. I don't think you really have anything in the States that's similar to it. I mean, UK has got like Marmite, I guess. And I think New Zealand is more about Marmite or Promite, but it's all the mites, and they're all like a yeast extract, basically like the sediment left in the bottom of the barrels from beer. So
if I were to look at some of this in a jar, is that how it comes? Like, what does it look like? Yeah. Like would it look like our jam or jelly?
No, it's kind of brown, a browny black color, really. Probably a similar consistency to like a paste, I suppose.
Okay, but you do spread it though. You do spread it.
Yeah. You spread it. You can actually
and it's best on what? Toast?
Best on toast, but you can eat it on anything. You can eat it on sort of crackers. I actually ate it. I took some to work the other day on some rice cakes. Rice, those rice cake things.
You need something on those.
yeah, a bit of Vegemite. It's amazing, and I'm a thick spreader of Vegemite. I love Vegemite, so like I'll cake it on. It's amazing.
Okay, fair enough. A raving endorsement for Vegemite.
But I lived in Canada for 2 years back in the early 2011, 2012, and I would get Vegemite sent to me from people at home, and a lot of people I did a lot of travel through the US at the same time when I was there, and I would always have a little tube. You can get them in tubes as well, like toothpaste tube of Vegemite.
Okay.
And a lot of people wanted to try it, but they would like squirt a bit on their finger and suck on it, and unless you know the taste, it's probably not the best way to try it. It's really good on toast with butter. So a slice of toast, bit of butter, and then a bit of Vegemite, and then depending how much you love it, you go thin, medium, or thick. I go really thick, and I love Vegemite. I love Vegemite sandwiches too. Just
you're really here to champion Vegemite, man.
I grew up with it.
Well, so it would be hard to be of Australian descent or heritage or citizenship and not have had Vegemite, right? You would probably say the whole continent. You guys are both a continent and a country.
Yeah. The only island nation, I think.
Everybody's had Vegemite, right?
Yeah, and look, not everyone likes it,
right?
But most people do.
They've all had all of them have had to been subjected to it and had to taste it, though.
Yeah, well, like I don't even remember when I first tried it. It's just always like obviously when I was a little kid, but I remember being a little kid. There's actually photos of me as a baby in a high chair with Vegemite on toast, and it's sort of the progression of the photos is like the toast is there, and then I've crushed it all up, and it's all over my face, and that's so.
I mean, but you were subjected to it in an early age, man. That's an endorsement of just how ingrained it is in your lifestyle. I mean, you remember that even from a kid, you're already into the Vegemite.
Yeah, like I said, I don't even remember it. So I just saw photos when I was a bit older. It's like, oh, I was eating Vegemite on toast. There you go.
Yeah, so
it's good stuff.
So if you could throw out a couple of adjectives, man, you said it would be a little more groove oriented. There might be some tweaks and some changes, man, to the King Parrot sound, man. Like, what are people going to expect from this album? Anything that's going to surprise them? Anything you could describe that's going to be, a pleasant surprise for the fans?
Look, I think it's still King Parrot, but it's
don't lose that.
I don't want to do the cliche thing, but it's like, it's a more mature, all that sort of stuff. It's definitely still King Parrot. I just think that, we've tried some things, and instead of being sort of balls out, flat out, like there's groovier elements, which we have had in the last couple of albums. We've probably always had a bit of a groovy element, to be honest.
Well, I think it's an amazing endorsement, man. Like when you get a guy like Phil Anselmo, man, because he is looked at and influential and revered in the metal world, man. So like when he particularly starts wearing your band's T-shirt and touting your band in articles and stuff, man, it's probably got to feel good.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And like I say, like Philip and Kate have just been so generous with their time and their everything with us. Like we when we go over there, they store we have a back line in America, and they keep it with their like storage. They give us a place to stay and like a home base when we're over there. So they're just really nice people, very, very giving, very caring, very, like they've just been amazing to us.
And metal fans, and metal fans should revere Phil Anselmo, man, because he, regardless of where the band ended up, man, for a while at their most potent, man, Pantera was really flying the flag for metal and keeping it alive. It was a little touch and go throughout the '90s, there, competing with grunge, and then hip hop was getting popular, and of course Metallica. No offense, man, they got a little wimpy in the early to mid '90s. I mean, nobody was really flying the flag for metal, man, like Pantera was in the '90s.
Well, yeah, and they never really relented, did they? That was
no.
If you listen to their sort of catalog, it's all
they got heavier.
They got heavier, yeah. But it was still like from Cowboys to sort of reinventing the steel and everything in between it all sounded like Pantera. They found their sound and they stuck with it, and it's like you say with In Excess, you can put a song on and go, oh, that's Pantera.
Yeah. So for you, man, so I know I actually you're Mount Rushmore of albums, man. But who's the one drummer, man, that you look at and say, wow, he's got it all, man? The ideal drummer.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I'm going to have to go back to Joey Jordison because he was the real reason that I wanted to play. And he's also he was also like a multi-instrumentalist, so he could play several instruments, which is kind of oh man, like he's the reason I wanted to play drums in a heavy metal band. So, but I mean, I've got so many drummers that I love, like Flo Mornier of Cryptopsy. Like he put out this DVD. This is before you could just go on YouTube and watch a million different drummers with a million different ways to play drums. But he put out this DVD called Heavy Metal Drumming or Extreme Metal Drumming 101. and that changed everything for me. There's just slight setup adjustments and exercises that he does really helped me with like speed building and just my general playing. But I mean, I'm a Paul Bostaph guy as far as Slayer goes, more so than Lombardo. I love what Lombardo's done. He kind of almost developed the whole thrash style, really.
I love Paul Bostaph though, man, because it seems like every band that he's in, man, he just fucking, no offense to the band, but like when he joined the man, they always either continued to kick ass or kicked ass fucking more.
He's just got he could play all the Lombardo stuff, but then he's just got his own flavor, which is I'm a Bostaph guy. Yet I love what Lombardo does as well.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite Slayer albums are God Hates Us All and Christ Delusion, which was the last Bostaph from his first stint and the first Lombardo from his second stint.
Yeah,
they're my two favorites, and I mean, I love Raining Blood and all that, but yeah.
So one of the ones I usually save for the very end. This is the one that'll really hold your feet to the flame here, Todd.
Yep.
The Desert Island album. You can only take fucking one. I let you have the actual artist, man. You know what I mean? Maybe their discography, but you can only go to this island with fucking one. Maybe you have an album in mind. I don't know. Maybe it's easy for you, but your Desert Island pick. You're stuck with this the rest of your fucking miserable life.
Gee, that's
Desert Island. Really, I know. Make it sound pretty bleak, huh?
That's a really tough question. My Desert Island album, because it's got to cover all the styles, doesn't it?
You're right. Yeah. You know what? That's the same point that I always make to my guests, man. As they're rolling this around, I say that would be the impetus for my thinking is that I wouldn't just want to hear, no offense to what you do, I wouldn't want to hear King Parrot all the time. I wouldn't want to hear death metal all the time. I wouldn't want to hear even a band like Metallica all the time.
No. So that's where I'm going to have to go a little left field and go back to one of my early influences and say Nirvana. But I'm going to say their album In Utero.
That would be masterpiece.
That would be the one album I would, if I couldn't listen to anything ever again except for one album, I suppose it'd be that, because it's got heavy elements, it's got great drumming. Dave Grohl, amazing drummer.
Yeah.
It's got soft elements. I'm going to say
Nirvana really changed the game, man. Nirvana were another one of those game changer bands too.
Yeah, totally. It was almost like cathartic when like 90s music came around, man, because it was getting a little derivative in the 80s. And I grew up during that time, but there's only so much you can hear about, sex, drugs, and rock and roll in every song, Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like I was sort of going into, like I'm born in 1981, so I was going into my sort of teens and getting into music, and sort of Nirvana was the band that was the band that I can really remember being a big fan of. I mean, I was a fan of like Faith No More and stuff when I was in sort of younger, and Guns N' Roses and stuff when I was younger. But Nirvana was the band that I really was like, I want to play music. I want to be in a band and play. I want to be Kurt Cobain.
I'm glad you shouted out Faith No More though, man, because they are one of those other bands, man, that just really pushes the boundaries, man. I would urge anybody to go check out Angel Dust, an absolutely amazing album, man. Yeah, those guys were at the forefront of really trying some cool shit.
Yeah, amazing band.
Yeah. So new King Parrot, more than likely the end of beginning of 2025, or will we see it by the end of 2024?
I think we're not gonna rush it. I think it's gonna be the start of next year.
Okay.
And then we're going to do a bit of touring off the back of that.
Will you be back in the States touring?
I would dare say we will be. I would hope so. We've got our US visas that we paid a lot of money for, that we need to use. So I would say we'll be over there a little bit, and we want to hit Europe a bit. And obviously our main market is Australia, because our band is very Australian.
Well, if you're in the upstate New York area, man, mi casa, su casa.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah. We could actually all sit in that nice background you got there and have a chat.
Although you might have to, although the guest bedroom is across the hall in what is pretty much been taken over and commandeered by my wife, and it is a very heavy strawberry shortcake theme in there.
Oh, that's all right. I like strawberry
Yeah.
shortcake.
Yeah. I mean, a big nod to the 80s, you know what I mean? Like, you remember the strawberry shortcake doll? I mean, very popular over here, like back when we were kids.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
listen, man, I really appreciate it, man. I love talking to you. I love talking to Matt. You guys are such a fun bunch of guys, man, too, man. I think that's what really draws the fans in, man. You know what I mean? You can see that you guys really exude a lot of passion, man, and you really enjoy what you're doing, man. So, you know, from one fan to you guys, man, you know, we feel that and appreciate it, man.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you. And thanks
Yeah.
for having me on. And obviously thanks for having featuring our band and spreading the word. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it was good talking to you, man. Definitely, we're connected on Facebook now. Definitely stay in touch, and when the album gets closer, we'll do it again, man.
Love to.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much, Todd. Good talking to you, man.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Later, man.
See you later.
And there he goes, folks. Todd Hansen, drummer for Australia's fucking grindcore masters, King Parrot. I'm getting all fired up, man. Whew. Appreciate talking to him, man. If you've been keeping up with the channel, man, just recently had Matt Young on as well, vocalist for King Parrot, man. Come on, Phil Anselmo, man, one of the gods of metal, man, goes around with King Parrot t-shirts on and talks them up in interviews and articles, and for very good reason, man. Dare I say the Australian Napalm Death. There you go. Yes, I said it. Probably just because I really am thinking Napalm Death when I think grindcore, man. But what King Parrot does is super fun, man, super original, man, and you know, just a fun but fucking heavy ass fucking band, man. And yeah, like I said, they are a lot of fun. The edibles are still kicking my ass, as you guys can plainly see as I drool out fucking words. I should cut my own self off. Or the Freddie Mercury puppet could have cut me off too, man, if he can talk through those gigantic chompers. But anyway, man, make sure to follow us on Facebook, and make sure to subscribe, and hit the notification bell on this channel. This is where the cool kids come to chop it up with Uncle Rexx. Come on, where else are you going to find him, man? And that was a fun conversation with Todd Hansen, the Skin Man, drummer for King Parrot, man. Go check them out, man, and then come back and say, thanks, Rexx. You hipped me to another fucking great one. Probably said that in the Matt Young interview as well, man, but go check out King Parrot, man. And as you heard, new music is on the way, kids. So stay tapped in. I'm sure you can find them on the internet, the streaming platforms. Go to their website, yada, yada, yada. Be resourceful. That's my message for the day. And let me also shout out, because I've been wanting to do a special segment on here, just shouting out cool pieces of art, whether it be a book, an album. It doesn't even got to be something that just came out. It's not like a review, just something that I found impactful. And I'm going to throw this one out here as my first one. If you guys get a chance, go check out the book entitled My Riot, Agnostic Front, Grit, Guts, and Glory by the legendary frontman of Agnostic Front, Roger Moret. This is a book by a guy that is a true warrior, man. He was there at the beginning of that gritty Lower East Side when hardcore was being born and bred, and he's been there for the whole entire ride, man. There he is on the cover, standing across the street from the legendary CBGBs. So inside, there's just some great pictures, you know, obviously a legendary New York hardcore band. I mean, just amazing. There's a picture of Roger right there, early days with a mohawk, carrying their goddamn equipment, man. I mean, nobody was handing these guys a fucking free lunch, that's for sure, man. They earned their fucking stripes, man. One of the preeminent greatest hardcore bands of all time, Agnostic Front, and that's their legendary frontman, Roger Moret. Can't urge you that this is a phenomenal book. I, of course, got to catch them in concert and have Roger's autograph, so this one's very special to me. But please, go check it out. Unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, there's no audio version out, which you guys know I love the audiobooks. But worth the fucking read, definitely. So go check out My Riot, Agnostic Front, Grit, Guts, and Glory by the great Roger Moret. And then you can also come back and thank me for that, too. This has been another amazing episode of Pod Scum. Thanks again to Todd Hansen, man. Appreciate him doing it. Go check out King Parrot. And as I always leave you guys at the end of these things, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.